Reds? Welcome back to another episode of Liverpool Latest. Today I will be discussing what poor excuses Arne Slot has today in the post-match press conference that he typically has after every match. I'll also be touching upon the Xabi Alonso rumors, which as soon as they came about, they were put to bed allegedly by Fabrizio Romano. I'll be discussing a possibility of a Van Dijk successor in an Inter Milan player, and of course, some personal news that I am very, very excited to share with you. So, let's get right to it. I hate watching, reading, or listening to Arne Slot press conferences. I truly do. To me, there's always some semblance of an excuse that is being made to not only save his own ass from getting fired, but also to make the team look better than what they were on the pitch. In this case, he does state in saying that Liverpool finished or started the match very well, but could not finish on any of the chances, which there were quite a few very good ones that were created over the course of the match. As a matter of fact, in the actual press conference transcription, he goes on to say that he thinks it might have been actually better than the last time we faced them back in September, which is hilarious because the score is exactly the same. But maybe the fact that we actually shot the ball a couple more times helps in that matter, but who knows? He also goes into talking about how Galatasaray punished Liverpool immediately. After all, Mario Lemina's goal in the 7th minute was very, very, very sad. The fact that they scored off the chance that they did, and considering Lemina was the only man in the box not properly marked, goes to show our, once again, very poor set-piece defending abilities. That, on top of the missed chances that were had, is just icing on the cake at that point. But wait, there's more. He talks about the disallowed goal from the VAR. Now, he does say that he himself was not given a clear explanation as to why the goal was disallowed, as he has heard from different opinions on the decision. Here's what I say. From my point of view, watching it back in the highlights, because I did not watch the match live, so I didn't get the live reaction and the live view that everybody else had. Is it a handball? You're goddamn right it is. Should Van Dijk have called a foul on Van Dijk in regard whether the handball was counting or not? Yes, they should have called that foul. Well, I should say the foul that was being put on Van Dijk, because they were pulling his fucking jersey down. He couldn't make the play, even if he was able to after the handball. So, that alone, I'm not really sure why they didn't make any sort of call on there. Quite questionable, if you ask me. So in that, I do kind of sort of see where Slot is coming from. That said, I don't think the goal was ever gonna stand, regardless of whether Van Dijk's shirt got pulled or not. I think once they saw the handball, they were probably just looking for an opportunity to fuck us over. That's why it took, however much time it needed to take. And all the ball had to do was hit Konate's arm. And in the last couple of weeks, I have talked about it a little bit. Quote-unquote handballs are oftentimes not necessarily properly called. Look at the McAllister situation a couple of weeks ago that I've been going on and on about. How they call that and then they don't call something else about a week or so later is very, very beyond me. But that is a different story for a different time. If not, I'm already beating the dead horse. The fact that he also goes on to say that we created second-half chances, like from a shot from McAllister and a one-on-one chance from Ekitike, which should have been made. That should have been a goal. I don't know why Ekitike did not finish that opportunity. What I love about Slot and what I hate about Slot is at the same time is in situations like this, especially when there is a two-parter to this series. This was only the first leg of the Galatasaray series. He goes on to say that it's halftime. Very telling. The hopeful optimist he is, giving everybody or trying to give everybody hope when everybody's hopes are all the way down further than rock bottom can possibly handle. The fact of the matter is, we basically were on the back foot for a good portion of the match against a team that many of us amongst football fans perceive to be inferior to our own. So even though we had controlled possession and created good chances, or even missed a couple of key moments, doesn't take away from the fact that Galatasaray had some very good defending. They took their opportunities when they needed to, and most importantly, they protected their lead. And they kept us on the back foot, like I said, which is even more insulting. And the fact that our defense was crumbling at that press was telling in itself. But that makes me upset. I hate Slot press conferences. I have grown to hate them very much. I feel like it's just regurgitated garbage. But I would like to see what happens in the next leg at Anfield. And if, God forbid, we do lose, what is Slot's excuse for said loss? Because it seems a lot of it is mostly about the refs, really. I mean, he does comment positively on the team and even puts Galatasaray over. But it seems like most of that is really blaming the refs for wondering what was going on with that call. Nonetheless, no matter what Arne Slot does, it doesn't seem like he's going to be losing his job anytime soon, according to sources and fan perception. And even worse, as I stated earlier in the video, just as soon as the Xabi Alonso preliminary talks were in place, they were certainly soon snuffed out. Reported by Fabrizio Romano himself, who directly denied the claim that any agreement had already existed between the club and Alonso. That said, he does say that Liverpool will conduct an internal review at the end of the season. Jesus, I almost said another word there. That will examine the squad, the coaching staff, and the overall direction of the club, which obviously includes Arne Slot. I wanted it to be real so goddamn bad, you have no idea. I wanted this to be true. I wanted nothing to rain on my parade, even though deep down I knew my soul was gonna be crushed. But the good news is, if what Fabrizio Romano is saying is true, that means this pressure on Slot is in fact growing far more than we had thought it was, because all we've heard is how the club is going to back Slot until the end of the season and continuously back him. And 13 defeats across all competitions this season be damned. We are going to continuously back Slot, even though the play style has been the same. It has not progressed. Is actually probably regressed over the course of the last few months, if not just stayed very consistently shit throughout. We've drawn against teams that we should not have drawn against, that we should have beaten very easily. We spent $500 million on a team that clearly is not producing the results that we had expected of them. And that could be a multitude of scenarios for why that is. But the fact of the matter is, at least there is the likelihood of Slot being sacked at the end of the season. And with any luck, Xabi Alonso could potentially take that spot if that is to happen, which I highly doubt at this rate. People have been preying on Slot's downfall, even myself. There's no secret here that we are an anti-Slot channel right now. I wanted to believe in him after last year, but the more I've seen the club and the more I've paid attention to the style of play, I do not and I cannot back somebody that is not giving us results after such an impressive window in the summer. I can't. So I am slot out regardless of what happens here. I've been out for quite some time. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but at this point, I am more than welcome to moving on to a different direction from players, from coaching staff, from everything, and that includes Mohamed Salah. Even though that hurts me personally deep inside to say, but the time of that might be up too. So, which you all know my feelings about if you've watched the videos. Another person whose time might be up soon is Virgil van Dijk, who it seems like we are consistently trying to find his replacement, even though we probably should be focused on finding Konate's replacement if Jeremy Chiquette is not better by the preseason. But the name that has been thrown into the fire and that people are paying attention to, probably more so than we all like to admit, because clearly he's a very sought after player, is Bastoni from Inter Milan, which is funny because Inter Milan tried to take a player from us in Curtis Jones, and it seems like now we are trying to repay the favor by trying to acquire an elite ball-playing center back, the likes of him. Of course, clearly he's also comfortable stepping into the midfield and excellent in progressive passing, and of course, at only 26 years old, pretty solid. I mean, the guy's got his whole career ahead of him practically. I mean, Van Dijk is almost, 35? And he could probably still play if he wants to. I don't know about for Liverpool, but he can play if he wants to. You know, think about it this way. 26 years old to Van Dijk's 35. That's nearly 10 years of a good player that we have at our hands, barring any terrible injuries, God forbid. But such a player comes a steep price, which is roughly going to be 80 million to 100 million euros. Because fuck your bank account, that's why. Clearly, the price reflects his importance in Inter's system, and the fact that he also has a very long contract, not only going into next year, 2027, but the year after that, into 2028. And of course, he's one of Serie A's best defenders, according to many reports. So why wouldn't that price be incredibly steep? You'd have to be a dumbass not to think of it that way. I mean, after all, I said this yesterday. Football and sports in general is a business. Somebody's got to make money and somebody's got to be willing to spend that money. Are we willing to spend that money? That is the question we ask ourselves right now. Of course, why wouldn't there be competition? Barcelona is also in the race. Arsenal seems like that's also a possibility in its own right. United, because fuck Liverpool, that's why. At any shape or turn that we have, they try to copy us to their best ability. So, the biggest obstacles here is Inter doesn't sell at all, and they keep him until the end of the contract, possibly extending him into another contract, and we lose out on a possibly great player for us. In addition to that, Barcelona's interest is certainly something that is problematic, to say the least. I'm not even worried about United. I'm not even worried about Arsenal. I'm more worried about Barcelona. Because clearly, it seems as though a lot of Spanish teams have taken interest into a lot of European players and players in the English clubs, including our own. After all, Real Madrid continues to stick their nose in places where it doesn't belong, even after they took away Trent from us. So, what's the possibility of Bastoni staying at Inter? Probably quite high. I don't see it right now being a move. Barcelona, probably a little more likely. A little less likely, I should say. Certainly more likely than us signing him, but at the end of the day, the idea of any club signing him at all outside of Barcelona and us, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest. It seems like we're doing a little bit more, us and Barcelona are doing a little bit more of the scouting than Arsenal and United are. So the good news is the interest is real, but talks have not advanced to a point where we're willing to actually give him a contract offer or there's any personal or preliminary terms being talked about, like the rumors like Xabi Alonso. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Last but not least, a little bit of personal news, breaking news. I've made a very, very bad financial decision. And in the event that this opportunity may not come back to me for quite some time and I may never get to Anfield, I decided to pull the plug and spend $500 worth for 2 tickets to go see Liverpool play in Yankee Stadium against Wrexham on July 29th of 2026. So I know this is not necessarily important news in the span of the entire club, but it's important for me. I was bragging about it a little bit across social media today because I was very happy about that. And like I said, I may never get this opportunity for another few years, if not at all. If I'm unlucky enough, which sometimes I am, I may never get this opportunity ever again. And the way I see it is take the opportunity while you have it, and it seems as though July 29th at Yankee Stadium is going to be the best bet. It's going to be a bit of a trip, considering I have not been to Yankee Stadium or haven't even been remotely a state or two away from it since 2024. I'm be coming all the way from South Carolina. It's going to be a bit of a trip for me, but I will be spending it with my father, who more than willingly decided to be dragged along to this trip because I didn't want to go alone. And I'm sure he has to now put up with me and how insufferable I am, as if he doesn't already know when I watch football. So even though, and a couple of people have told me, it's a friendly, it's not going to really matter. Obviously, I know that. They're probably not even going to play their first team. Hell, we'd be lucky if they even play the second string guys. I don't care. I get to see Liverpool play at Yankee Stadium. And if everything goes well for me, let's hope that continues. But right now, I got tickets. And I am very much planning on going. I don't care about any obligations. I don't care about any jobs. The only thing I care about is seeing my favorite football team play at my favorite baseball team stadium for a tour of the U.S. for the preseason. There is not a damn thing anybody will tell me otherwise. So that's what I have today on Liverpool Latest. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed the video or the podcast, please be sure to leave a rating on it. It certainly helps me out, helps the algorithm, and it helps Fan Arch out as well, as we are trying to continue to grow this brand. Also, comment down below all your thoughts. I would like to know what you feel about some of the things I've talked about in today's podcast and video. Last but certainly not least, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. What are you waiting for? You're missing out on some quality goddamn content here. Who's spending time out of their day to deliver you daily news, rumors, conversation, personal experiences now on everybody's favorite football club, Liverpool? So, and even if you'd hate Liverpool, you're still talking about us. But regardless, know that when you do join the Liverpool Latest family, you, my friend, will never walk alone. And I will certainly not be walking alone on July 29th. I almost said January. That'll be way too long, but I just can't wait. I'm excited. I'm really happy I pulled that plug. I'm going to go into debt because of it, but I'll take it. See you guys on the next one.